Hello everyone, Solomon AD here. I wanted to start making videos based upon spirits I've worked with. When I had gotten like a second wind into my occult journey, I started working with personified entities more. Whereas like my first several, I want to say like my first decade, while I did work with spirits, it wasn't not nearly in a plentiful manner as I did when I had gotten my second wind, or like even compared to today. So I think the reason why is, for one reason, is that it's easy to kind of understand when you don't have a in-depth practice of something like energy work, or even just you're just not a good clairvoyant, like your senses are not open enough. Because when you are, you can kind of gain gnosis through kind of just like reading books, or like even just living daily life, sometimes watching movies and stuff like that. But also there's the given that you think that spirits pack more of a punch, and if you want results, you need some of these spirits. So, and there's a element of truth to that, but it's honestly not. It's not gospel. So I've worked with a bunch of spirits. And in preparation for this video, I was like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write down all the names of spirits I've worked with. Or at least ones I've worked with that are worth talking about. Like, I have some stories about some more than others. And this is probably one of the most popular spirits, and it's a great one to start with in terms of, like, if you want to go to a spirit because you're looking for results, this spirit is usually sought after. And that spirit is Lucifer. So I could make a whole bunch of videos on Lucifer. I am not the foremost authority on Lucifer, though. There are several books out there. One just came out recently. Name escapes me of the author. I believe it's called The True Identity of Lucifer. The guy was interviewed on Aeon Byte a few months ago, and I liked a lot of what he was saying. A lot of the historical information he presented was really good. There's also Lucifer Princeps from Scarlet Imprint. I've only read excerpts of that book. But I did write a paper on the figure of Lucifer in a college course. It wasn't supposed to be a full in-depth thesis, but it was a credible academic essay that happened to be written by an occultist for like the purpose of like processing what, like, kind of like the truth of the name. Or at least like the origin of the name and how legitimate it is. This is barring the time in some of the grimoires, like Grimorium Verum and things like that. So I do have not just like practical experience with the spirit, but I've done actual research on the spirit, and I've looked at other sources for the spirit, which this is a major drawback for most people, because they kind of just Google and go on forums for their experience with the spirit before and after summoning, and they don't really know anything about Lucifer. That being said, and I'm kind of outspoken if I've had conversations with people, that I kind of have a gripe with Lucifer, and it's just because of the etymology of the name is that, you know, he's really not a suggested figure in the Bible. I think even there's several occultists that have asked the question, is Lucifer even real? And there's that's a very good question, because there's not a lot of evidence that suggests a good origin for the character, whereas like in several pieces of literature, whether it's grimoires or Paradise Lost or Dante's Inferno, it's just kind of understood what his history is without actually like diving deep into the history. But you're here for practical information on Lucifer. Now, I will say Lucifer has been a great help to me. But he's been a great help in a lot of ways that you wouldn't expect. not in the kind of ways where you would call him and have a formal kind of contract. Even like, and people may think about like, oh, summon Lucifer, you ask for something, and he's going to be like, well, this, and then it's like he does something that's very, very kind of like big and grandiose that you didn't expect, but it helps you out in the end. That's actually not what I'm talking about. That would be still kind of expected for an interaction with a spirit like that. What I'm talking about is that sometimes we would find each other in certain situations that we just happen to be there together with. So as I've mentioned, my patron is Samael, and Samael, if you just do the history on it, Samael, characters like Samael, Lucifer, Azazel, they're kind of, I don't want to say they're interchangeable, but they're smacked together, and their names are dragged through similar roles multiple times throughout history. So they are going to cross paths at some point. And that is what me and Lucifer have crossed paths with multiple times. And he has been a great help to me, and I consider him an ally. I do not consider him like this dark daddy figure that a lot of dark occultists want to consider him as, because while he is, I would say he is actually a pretty approachable spirit for most, that does not mean he is going to be, like, he can be very harsh in how he decides to approach you. I would actually say that if he's going to treat you harshly, it's more often than not a telltale sign that he actually sees you being worth an investment. From what I've seen, the practitioners that he's extremely friendly with, I don't want to say like he's using them, but you could say that because he is, I think he sees that these people don't know what they're doing and they're kind of not worth an investment, but they provide some form of worship anyway. And if that sounds like mean, you have to look at, the spirits have their own forms of economy, just like we have economies on earth. And if you're willing to give something up so freely, such as your worship, they will take it. A lot of them will take it. Maybe not all of them, but Lucifer's one of those that will, because you're not projecting a sense of sovereignty. And even that sense of sovereignty, I don't want to say, oh, just present a form of sovereignty. Honestly, spiritual sovereignty is kind of earned. It is very much earned. And but that's another topic. I will say that whereas Lucifer can be friendly, or I would say he's approachable but can be harsh, I will say this about Samael, is that he is not approachable and he is always harsh. So you see how these characters are similar, but they're almost different flavors of the same kind of meta concept. I've got tons of stories about Lucifer. I don't want to make this one very long. I'll probably make multiple videos about Lucifer. And please comment down below on your questions about any spirit that I'll be doing reviews on, but especially Lucifer, because I want to go down a little bit more the rabbit hole. But I will say that I've summoned, this was a bit more like regular summoning. I summoned Lucifer in a group setting. I was with a group of practitioners, and the ritual that they were doing was kind of focusing on a devil figure. And I use that term loosely. I don't want to say the devil, but devil figure. There's reasons why I'm saying that. That's another video. But with this group of practitioners, we actually did it on Easter weekend. It was a fantastic ritual. And we basically had to choose a devil figure. We kind of ran through a list of devil figures. And through the list, out of that list, Samael wasn't listed. And you can't go through all the devil figures. There's so many. So it's like, but one of them that was listed was Lucifer. And I was like, I had actually worked with Lucifer loosely in an evocation about like 1 or 2 years before that with a left-hand path occultist that I respect very much, and I was like, you know what, let's give this a go. I'm gonna try this. This was like in an actual temple. This wasn't in like somebody's house. We did this in an actual temple. The ritual was actually based off of like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, like in good taste. It wasn't just kind of like trendy, a trendy take on custom magic. It was very, very well executed. And we were basically petitioning Lucifer for familiar spirit. Now, we each had to like go into like the center fold of the temple and have a chat with our chosen devil figure through a black mirror. And I did, and at the time, it wasn't like a really good interaction. It wasn't bad, it's just it was very indifferent. And I can't really say the exact reason why. At this time, I think it was just because, so there's 2 reasons why that I can hypothesize. Again, this is the occult, nobody knows everything for certain. So I can hypothesize 2 reasons why. First of all is that my patron is Samael, and Samael is essentially like my devil figure. And there's nothing that's really going to compromise that. It doesn't mean I can't work with others, but especially at that time, I think I was like too tied into that to where it would be like a breach of agreement. The other thing is that the whole focus of the ritual was to petition for a familiar spirit. I've never been one for familiar spirits until very recently, but especially during that time, I didn't really see the point of having a familiar spirit when I have a patron. I don't think I can treat them the same. You can't treat a patron and a familiar spirit the same way, of course. But if I need anything, I don't want to go to a small spirit, if that makes any sense. At least back then, that's how I was thinking. And I would rather try different methods instead of having a familiar spirit. If I was going to learn any kind of witch ways, I'd rather learn a witch method from a big spirit. And so I was always mentally reserved about having a familiar spirit. So for me, it was actually a failure. That ritual was actually a failure. So why would I bring the story up? Well, I think this is interesting because another practitioner that was who was running the ritual, there came a part after we talked with Lucifer and stuff. We were all like sitting down doing some chants or whatever. This was in a building, but there was a adjacent room in the building where somebody was blasting music for like a minute. Like it started for a minute, but it ended in a minute. And after the ritual, we got with the person who was running the ritual, and he said, when that music started to blast, he commanded his familiar spirit that was just given to him by Lucifer to go and shut off the music, and it shut off in 60 seconds. So that's, and I have other like actual good interactions with Lucifer. Like this was just one that was kind of like a crapshoot, but I think it's a great story, like it's a great case study, because here I didn't have a successful experience, whereas somebody else clearly did. And it was pretty, like there was multiple people that were witnesses to like what was going on. That didn't sour my relationship with Lucifer. It's just the type of ritual. I love participating in all kinds of rituals, even if it's not really going to do much for me, because I like communing with others over occult stuff. So it's like I don't have to get something out of every ritual, but I did get something out of that. I got a very good learning experience. Now I have other stories where we actually like did amazing work, me and Lucifer. But that will be for another time. But that's a story so far. So if you got questions, please put them down in the comment section. That's all I got right now for Lucifer. Sign up for the Patreon for monthly Mayan rituals. I'll be making announcements for the upcoming Mayan gods that I will be doing rituals with. check out the Patreon. Check out my, I have my Instagram there. I'll be posting more to Instagram. Yes, if you would need spiritual services, consultations, link is in the description below. Solomon AD Spiritual Services. I thank you for your time. Until next time.